One of the things you can take away from it as good news is that the sort of thing that this initiative has attempted has been tried before, and other communities and in other counties of goodwill, commissioners have attempted to accommodate this sort of thing. I have found a number of cases in case law, in fact, that have a lot to do with the sort of thing that this initiative is trying to cover. One of them, the most recent one, was actually in King County. It was about the Growth Management Act. The people there wanted a little more say in the rules that were being made under the Growth Management Act, and therefore tried to have the county do what's basically being done by this petition, which is say, any decision made under this is going to have to also go to a vote of the people. Seems sensible enough, right? It went to the courts and was struck down. Same thing also happened in earlier cases that were quoted by this same case. It was a 2006 case, Thousand Friends of Washington versus King County. For those of you who want to follow along legally, struck down. The ruling by the courts in both cases was pretty much the same, and it went like this. The state constitution makes certain rules regarding these issues and many others. They determine from the top how land use decisions can be made by the counties. They do not include the right of the county to give that responsibility over to the people by vote. As a result, they're saying that these kinds of rules are unconstitutional because there's a provision in the state constitution that says anything that that the counties can only make ordinances that do not conflict with state law. This sort of reasoning would work on, well, it's worked on the Growth Management Act and zoning. It'd work on voter approval for the comprehensive plan. It'd work on voter approval for special benefit districts, for other special districts. Vacating roads is another one of the things that this would be unconstitutional for. Setting an annual real estate excise tax levy, which is required for our budget, would be one of the things that would go to vote under this, as I understand it. But again, it would probably be struck down if so, because it conflicts with the state's methods of doing these things. Basically, pretty much all of the things that anybody might want done by this ordinance, if I understand why it's being passed, this kind of ordinance has already been attempted and has been struck down as unconstitutional.
My name's Don Fullerton, Jeff Lameth. I don't know how we got off the track. Our original intent when we developed this course was to prevent what happened last time from happening again. Now, the Heritage people were in here for over 2 years before we heard a word about it. And our objective in this whole process is information process, so that when something like this occurs, it becomes public knowledge immediately so people can respond. It isn't to keep them out. There's no way to keep them out. Okay, and it says in the federal Constitution that they can't violate our property rights. And I'm sure you're all aware of it, where it is and what it says. We felt when we started this whole process that we were being invaded by this organization. I asked at the one meeting I went to, which was the only one I had heard about, 3 pointed questions. Each of them concerning the intent, whether they were backed by federal money, whether they were connected to an environmental group, and whether or not they would fund this project. Each of the answers they gave me, although being very vague, as I understood them, turned out to be not true. The information that we were trying to obtain wouldn't have been for Lully, we'd have never got it. our intent on this is not to overshadow what you folks are doing. Our intent is to keep the public informed in the event this thing occurs again. And I understand that in some parts it is. When you read the dissertations about how the Heritage Corporation took over the state of Tennessee, if it doesn't scare you to death, I don't know what will. And so from getting us into some kind of a mezzanine that you're talking about here was not the intent of the ordinance or the intent of the petition. It was to get information to the public so that we could get out and check these things out for ourselves, then come to you with a recommendation.